All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Capitalize on Retirement. Today, as we kind of near the end of football season, we wanted to talk about the retirement red zone. Hopefully the Steelers are in the playoffs when we're recording this, but we'll see. So we're going to talk about the retirement red zone, and what we consider the retirement red zone is the 5 years before and into retirement, and that is by far the most critical piece of your retirement plan, right? That's the most critical timing of it.
Yeah, definitely. I think the 5 years leading up to and the first 5 years, that's where you could really make or break your retirement, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you have a lot of decisions to make. You have to make decisions on when do I take my income, how do I maximize those income streams? What do I do with Social Security and pensions? And, people have maybe a very risky portfolio. Maybe we want to be a little bit more risk averse when we get closer to. And we'll talk about why, but I do think it makes a lot of sense to call that the retirement red zone. You can make a lot of mistakes in that time.
Yeah, I mean, you got healthcare decisions to be made. You're formalizing your estate planning during this time. Like, this is a different area. If we equate it to football, it's like getting up the field is difficult, but when you kind of get compressed in that box, things get a little tougher, a little more challenging. And not that it's necessarily challenging. It's just it's a different thing than, when we're building our assets or building our wealth, we're just putting money away. We're saving. We're accumulating, as we call it. And when we enter this kind of retirement red zone, we're going from accumulation to decumulation. We're not spending, turning that money into a paycheck. So this is what we specialize in. This is the stuff we really, really like. So let's talk about why the retirement red zone matters. Why is that so critical for us?
So I think the first thing, and what we always talk about, is sequence of return risk. So this is probably the biggest risk and the biggest differentiator between success and failure when you get to retirement. And so what sequence of returns is, as you know, it's the sequence of what my returns are going to be in those years. And so let's just say you get to retirement and you retire at the wrong time. And let's say we have 2 bad years in a row in the market, but we're also withdrawing money out of our portfolio. Well, that creates a lot of problems. Mm-hmm. When we were working, we were putting money into the portfolio, and when the market went down, we didn't have to panic. We just let it recover.
Yep.
And so now we're at a different point where we're not continuing to put money in. We don't have time to let it recover. We're actually withdrawing money. And so it could create a lot of problems.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if many people realize this. A lot of people do, but like those downturns in the market, we're dollar cost averaging, right? People have heard that term. You're buying every single month. So through your 401k, your payroll deductions, every month, whether the market's up or down, we're buying. So if it's down and we're buying, that actually helps us.
Yeah.
But in retirement, that is the exact opposite because we're not buying anymore, we're selling. Yeah. And if we're selling when the market's down, our portfolio is going backwards because the market is bringing it back, and then we're selling.
Yeah.
And it gets tough to recover. So, that's why it's so important. Sequence of return risk is probably one thing that most advisors don't necessarily talk about. We use the general rules of thumb. We've talked about that on a previous broadcast, the 4% rule, things like that.
Yeah, and there are a lot of things that can produce income for you in retirement, but most people, when they get to retirement, they say, I want to live on the interest and not take my principal. Well, if the market goes down, the market doesn't go in a straight line up every single year. So when the market goes down, you might be tapping in the principal, and you're hoping that your money recovers over time. And we don't like our clients going into retirement when they're hoping that they make it, right?
Yeah, you can't hope for it, right? A goal without a plan is just a wish.
Yeah.
We can't really hope for that, and you as well as I do, we don't know what the market's going to do. And I think that's the most important thing. Having an asset structure in place, having an income plan, making those Social Security decisions, and those are all things that when you're 5 years before retirement, 5 years into retirement, if you don't have it, that's critical to success or failure.
Yeah, and healthcare, like you said, healthcare. So when do I take Medicare, or am I pre-65, where maybe I have to go to the marketplace and get a health insurance plan, or am I 65 and I go on Medicare, and what plan do I choose? So I think those decisions are very important at that time, as well as taxes. I mean, we talk about all the time. but maybe I'm going into retirement and I'm in a lower tax bracket. So maybe there's opportunity there. And so all of these things start to work together. When you're working, you're not really thinking about it.
No, and I think that kind of transitions into the next topic. And as you move from that accumulation cycle to preservation, obviously you kind of got to have an income plan in place, and sequence of returns is one of your biggest risks in that. But I think the other thing is emotionally, right?
Yeah.
Emotionally, you spend decades saving this money, and then to retire and all of a sudden have to take it out. A lot of people that we talk to for the first time, not everybody, but a lot of people have never taken a draw from their portfolio before.
Yeah.
And now you're shifting into this phase to where that's generating the lifestyle that you need.
Yeah.
Which is why, having a structure in place really matters. But that's an emotional thing that we encourage people all the time. Spend more money, enjoy it. You've worked hard for it.
Yeah, so moving from accumulation to preservation or income. And we actually have a football coach that's a client, and he said to us, what really made us kind of do the retirement red zone is because he said to us, when we explained our process and we said we have growth accounts and we have income accounts and they're different and they should be separate. And he said, so we have offensive players and defensive players.
That's exactly it.
Right? And so the offensive players, you want them to correlate it to the market. Those are our growth. That's our growth piece.
Mm-hmm.
The defensive players are more conservative. That's our income or preservation piece.
And your portfolio needs that, right? You can't be, defense wins games.
Yeah.
So when things are getting a little wonky out there in the stock market, defense is going to help you. Just like in a football game, defense is going to help you win games. Offense is fun. It's exciting, right?
Yeah.
That's what we want. We love that. But you do have to have both worlds of that. You got to play offense, you got to play defense, and you got to play special teams, which is going to be your taxes, your health care, your estate planning, kind of layering everything in together. I like that analogy, though.
Yeah, definitely. I think, let's talk about, I guess, avoiding big mistakes in retirement. One of the things that we talk about is retiring and you have that first year market decline or second year market decline, and so that's the retirement red zone. We kind of talked about the volatility piece there and why that's a problem, but I also want to talk about taking withdrawals from the wrong accounts. So we talk about those offensive and defensive players. Well, if we know we have defensive players that are protecting us in the down markets, well, we don't want to look at our offensive account, at our growth account, and take money out when the market's going down. So we really want to rely on those defensive players when the market's down. And when the market's up, it's easy. You can take from either. So I do think having those different types of accounts is very important.
Yeah, and it's not so important when you're younger and you're saving money because you don't anticipate any withdrawals. But like you said, when the market's going backwards, we've got to have something in our portfolio that can give us safe, reliable, and steady income. And you also said this, when the market's up, it's easy. If the market's going straight up, it's easy to meet our retirement goals. We don't really have an issue. So I think that's so important, not taking money out when the market is down, because if you catch 2-3 bad years in the market and you're drawing 4%, your portfolio is going to be in serious trouble.
Yeah.
And I don't know if the market's going to go down a couple years in a row. I'm sure it will at some point in time. When? I have no idea. I can't pinpoint that. My crystal ball lifted it home.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the families that we work with, when they first come into our office or they talk to us over the phone, they really have no idea how much money they can spend in retirement. And so I think that's the best thing that we offer is, maybe not only just having a comprehensive plan with taxes and all these things working together, but we give them clarity on how much can I actually live on, how much can I generate, right? And there's all kind of income products. You could use dividend stocks, you could use certain types of bonds, you could use annuities, but it's just having that right correlation between all of those different income products.
Yeah, and whatever one works for that specific person is okay for us as long as it's going to work. I think the other thing is by hiring an advisor who understands income planning and how to structure a portfolio the right way, you're taking the emotional side out of it, right? We work with a lot of engineers, and when we're building our process and building our plan and presenting it to them, they understand how it's going to work and what the products are doing and their intended purpose. And I think that really helps because it gives you kind of that license to spend money.
Yeah.
I mean, you know the statistics as well as I do. 59% of Americans over age 60 fear running out of money in retirement.
Yeah.
But we have very few people who walk into our office for the first time who haven't saved enough money to retire.
Yeah. They just don't know it sometimes.
They just don't know it. And I
Yeah.
think that's the biggest thing here. They're right that they have that concern because there is risk there. That's the greatest thing about what
Yeah.
we do.
Yeah, I had one of the families that we worked with the other day. They told me, my real goal is to make X amount of dollars. So they wanted to make $150,000 in retirement. They thought there was no way they could get there, and so they said, "Well, I know we can't make it to that, but if we could live on 100, I think we'll be okay." And when I looked at their account and I looked at what they had saved and I looked at their Social Security and pensions, I'm like, guys, they're, safe withdrawal rates, and if we structure it the right way, we could get you close to that $150,000 number. And so they had no idea. And so I think that's very powerful. What is your number? How much do you need? And how do we structure the portfolio so that we can get there? And sometimes you don't want to all be an offense. You have to have some defensive players.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, we're able to change people's lifestyle, and they've done all the hard work. It's just knowing how to coordinate it and giving them that comfort so that they feel confident in spending their money and doing everything they've dreamed about. I mean,
we have
awesome.
thousands of families that we help get through to and through retirement.
Yep.
Somebody doing it themselves, they might plan one retirement. So it's just more complex when you've only done one.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you plan a couple hundred successful retirements a year, you get pretty good at it. Whereas if I'm doing it myself, I might plan one or two over my lifetime. So there's different level of complexity. I think one of the other things that we talk about, and we teach workshops on this, one of the biggest decisions for retirees and pre-retirees in this red zone is Social Security timing.
Yeah.
And this is one that, we talk about this all the time. This is a daily conversation with the families that we serve. But whether you should claim early or late depends on your specific situation. I think we hear it so often that, well, my neighbor took it at this age, and that's great. That probably worked great for your neighbor.
Yeah.
But your financial situations, your goals, your needs, your tax situations, those are all different. So I think coordinating your benefits with your retirement plan in mind, with your income goals in mind, with your spouse, with your longevity in mind, that Social Security decision has to layer in all of those factors.
Yeah, it's huge. And there's so many decisions to make with Social Security, especially if you're a married couple.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, both of you could take your own benefit. You could claim spousal benefits. There are survivor benefits. I mean, there are all kind of different things when it comes to Social Security. And I think it's just important that, like you said, you coordinate it, make sure you're making the decision that's best for you.
Yeah, and I mean, this is an area that, most people have been, well, some people don't even get the statements anymore. You got to go to SSA.gov, but most people don't understand how they're going to time it, when they should take it. And that's an area that we really help a lot of people with because Social Security is a great income stream.
Yeah. And we've put a lot of money into it.
Yeah, we put a lot of money into it. It's spousal protected. It increases with inflation. Like it's one of the most important income streams you have. And knowing how to maximize that program that you put so much money in is critical to your retirement.
Definitely. And I know we deal with a lot of engineers. We deal with a lot of people who like to maximize every dollar. And a lot of people look at Social Security and they say, well, I'm going to get more if I delay it. And so let me delay my benefits because I want to get the highest amount possible. And sometimes that really makes sense, but sometimes it doesn't make sense.
Yep.
And so it actually hurts you if you delay your benefits because now you're living on your assets versus Social Security. and you can't pass on Social Security, but you can pass on your assets.
That's one of the things I always say too. Like, if we've been a really good saver, why would we put? Because again, we're talking about this red zone, right?
Yeah.
The early years of retirement. That's the most critical. So, we're in the early years of retirement. We want to delay Social Security. I understand that, but why would we stress our portfolio that has legacy value to our
Yeah.
beneficiaries or wherever we want it to go to delay Social Security? And that doesn't apply to everybody, but it applies to
Right.
certain people. If you've been a really good saver,
Yeah.
you have way more options regarding Social Security than
Yeah.
if Social Security is your only income stream, you should likely delay it as long as possible.
Yeah. Yeah, and on that, I mean, it's people are always trying to maximize what they have. I've seen it too many times where people make the wrong decision on Social Security benefits. And so, like you said, you can pass on your assets, you can't pass on Social Security. And we're not saying to take it early, but once again, if the market is going straight up, it's a little bit better if you delay it. Now, if the market's going down and you delay your benefits, now you're putting a ton of pressure on your investments. So, sometimes when the market goes down, you want to take Social Security, but there's all different strategies there.
Yeah, there's a ton. And again, it's unique to each and every person. I mean, the market's been good for a couple years. I know personally we have a couple people who have delayed benefits because the market's been so good. So
Yeah.
you're taking out appreciated assets, and there's no problem with that.
Yeah.
But we're also having the conversations, hey, if we catch a slide, we might have to flip things. And but again, it goes back to having a plan.
Yeah.
The next area I think we should talk about, and we talk about taxes a lot, but I think, again, we talk about it, needle mover. Tax planning moves in the red zone. And I think when I think about this, I think it's important to note, we're talking about retirement in the first couple years, and I think, we don't have control what Congress and the government do with our tax code. But
Yeah.
what we have control with when we retire, even before we retire, is our income.
Yeah.
We control how much money comes out of these accounts. And when we have that control, we can do things like Roth conversions,
Yeah.
which can reduce our RMDs, manage IRMA, capital gains, things like that.
Yeah, that's a good point. So let's talk about IRAs, because a lot of people save money into these 401ks and IRAs. So let's just talk about a couple of the problems with those accounts, because we see this every day. But as people are saving into these accounts, I don't think they realize some of the problems that could happen down the road. So IRAs, when you save money into a 401k or IRA, you're deferring the tax bill. So when you take that money out, it's taxed as ordinary income. Well, not only is it taxed as ordinary income, but it can cause a couple other problems as well. The first one is it could push your capital gains tax higher. So depending on how much your income is, the more income you have, the more you pay in taxes on your capital gains.
Yep.
The more income you have coming in, the more tax you pay on your Social Security benefits, because it pushes us into higher limits. And the last one's going to be Medicare, right? IRMA surcharges. So it's not necessarily a tax. We call it a stealth tax.
Yeah.
But more income you have, the more you pay for Medicare. So you're talking about Roth conversions, and the benefit of that is that money, that income is tax-free, which does not impact your capital gains. It doesn't impact your Medicare limits, and it doesn't impact your Social Security taxation. So I just think looking at all of these things and making sure you're coordinating all of them together, that's why we spend a lot of time on taxes, because it can impact people.
Oh, it's huge. And I think, part of that is most people don't realize this, but when we have money in a 401k, IRA, whatever it is, it's not a matter of if we're going to pay those taxes.
Yeah.
It's a matter of when, because at some point we are forced, and it's either 73 or 75 under current law. If you were born after 1960, your RMD date is 75. But at some point in time, we're forced to take distributions from these accounts and pay taxes on them, whether we want it or need it or not. And all of those distributions are taxable. And if we pass away with these accounts, our beneficiaries have 10 years to distribute them, all of which is fully taxable to them as ordinary income. So we're going to pay taxes on these accounts.
Yeah.
So when we have that control up until our RMD age, we should take advantage of that. And that's an area that we spend a ton of time in. I think the other thing, just piggybacking off of that, is everybody says, well, should I take money out of my brokerage account, my IRA account, or my Roth account first?
Yeah.
And the answer is we don't know, right? We build tax models for each and
Yeah.
every client, so we know, hey, you're going to be in this tax bracket. We should take it from this account. So
Yeah.
I think it's having a comprehensive approach to this is you have to.
I mean, we see it too many times where somebody comes in and they're like, hey, my advisor is really good at the investment piece, managing my money. And it's like, that's great. But if you're not looking at this tax bill that you have coming down the road, you're potentially missing out on a lot of tax dollars over time. And so I think it's just very important that you coordinate all of it, like you said. So, and that kind of brings us to the last part of it, which is building a coordinated plan. Looking at the investment piece, but also looking at the income piece, the tax piece, healthcare, and legacy piece all together. So just having all 5 of those areas working together, that's what sets you up for a successful retirement.
No, I couldn't agree more. And that's important for everybody at every age. But as you're entering this red zone, this retirement red zone, you have to have these pieces in place. Right, and I think it's important to make sure you're working with someone who understands this, because a lot of the concepts that we're discussing, and I know, not every advisor has these conversations with the families they serve. A lot of our industry still has conversations around stocks, bonds, mutual funds, what's our allocation look like, and that's all important.
Yeah.
But the differentiator for retirees, they need help with Social Security.
Yeah.
They need help with tax planning. They need help with estate planning, risk management.
Well, think about how many places you can call and get a portfolio set up for you.
Yeah. You do it on your own.
Exactly. You can do it on your own. But how many places can you call that are going to help you make a Social Security decision along with a Medicare decision, coordinate your tax plan,
your long-term care
your
plan,
long-term care and estate plan? And, when you think about it, yes, could somebody go and piece all those pieces of the puzzle together? Maybe. But once again, you only get one retirement, so you want to make sure you do it the right way.
I couldn't agree more. Not all advisors operate the same way. And I think that's an important, it's an important thing for people to understand, is not every advisor is the same. And that's not a problem. Doesn't mean we're better than anybody or anybody's better than us. I think it's just what suits your needs and your goals the most. And we specialize in this retirement game, if you will, to keep using that analogy. And I think it's important that if you are in that area, that you work with someone who really fully understands the comprehensiveness that they need.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think if you're, 5 years before retirement or within that 5-year window of being in retirement, I think that's the most important phase of your life. You really need a retirement plan that focuses on all 5 of these areas. And really, it's pretty simple, right? You want to make sure that you're not overly aggressive with your investments. You want to make sure you have an income plan. So that's the first piece of it.
Mm-hmm.
Then you want to look at, do I have a tax opportunity? Then you want to look at the healthcare side of it, because long-term care can be very expensive. And so health insurance and long-term care. And then estate planning. Do I need a will? Do I need a trust? If you have all 5 of those areas working together, that really sets you up for a successful retirement.
Sets you up for a successful retirement and gives you that confidence that people want. Like,
right.
I think one of the most beneficial things that we can hear when we're meeting with families is I just feel confident now.
Yeah.
I have that comfort level, and there's nothing better than that they have that they can go out and enjoy everything they built and set out to do. And, it's awesome for us to help them accomplish those goals.
Definitely. So once again, 5 years before and after are the most important. And if you don't have a plan, you really want to get that in place, because you only get one retirement.